This is James. James just received a request from his boss to deploy a new database, but he's running low on resources in his lab, and getting new capital for additional hardware and provisioning everything that it needs is probably going to take some time. The requirements call for an AIX database running on IBM Power hardware with some key requirements, like the ability to scale on demand, being highly available, and getting deployed as soon as possible. James bumps into his friend Mike at IBM and decides to ask him if he has any suggestions. This is their conversation. Okay, look, James. IBM has cloud data centers around the globe that can be used to quickly provision on demand resources for any of your mission critical workloads. Now, their PowerVS offering gives you access to Power infrastructure in the cloud. Let me log into my cloud account and I'll show you how quickly you can start deploying VM instances. So let me log in and go right into a workspace in Dallas. And you'll be able to see that I already have a couple of instances out there, but I'm going to go right in and create a new one. Now, the PowerVS provisioning interface makes it easy to define policies and select the OS image that you want along with the I/O requirements. And then you can go ahead and pick from scale up or scale out servers depending on your application requirements. You can decide whether the resources need to be dedicated or whether they can be shared. And finally, once you set up the networking parameters, you can come in, review your selections, and once you're done, you can go ahead and accept the license agreements and click Create. So I don't know if you caught it in the demo, but to meet some of the database vendor requirements, you can pin the virtual instances. Now, that fixes the OS instances to a physical server on the backend infrastructure, and then that meets the requirements to only have to license the resources that are actually being used. So this does limit the instance availability, since if there was ever a disruptive maintenance event, access to your instance could be affected. But that's where using IBM cluster software can help. So by clustering your application, you can protect it against an interruption of service and have a quick automated failover to a standby instance. You can even define placement groups, where if you set an anti-colocation placement policy for your instances, you would be guaranteed that they would always be hosted on a separate physical machine on the back end. So basically, the cluster would be responsible for providing the quick takeovers for planned and unplanned events, just like on-prem. But you could have a colocation policy where those instances are hosted on different physical machines. Nothing gets past you, James. You ever hear of ROHA? Resource Optimized High Availability. It's been around for on-prem solutions for years. IBM just made it available for clustered PowerVS environments. So you basically set up your instances to come up skinny on both sides, and you define the application requirements within the cluster configuration. Now, the ROHA operations performed at the time that the application is being acquired or released. Now, only the instance hosting the workload will get expanded up to your specified CPU and memory requirements. If the workload moves to the standby instance, the resources are released on the source, and the target side's expanded automatically. Essentially, the cluster is integrated to send a request to the PowerVS service broker, which tells the backend infrastructure the resources that it needs to provision, and in turn expands the instance. If you ever need to fail back, the process is reversed. It's hands-off. You essentially let the cluster manage the resources that it needs to activate based on where the application is being hosted. Now, this essentially lets you achieve an N+1 model. It cuts down your licenses in half and provides significant savings. Come on, James, get with it. Let's up your power game. Now that you know that with IBM Power VS, you can leverage IBM Power infrastructure in the cloud, the sky's the limit. So sit back and knock out that requirements list.